Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Strip Club.
Good morning.
Today I bring you another pattern that uses 2.5-inch strips. This one is called Tropics. Can you tell why? We normally don't name a pattern based on colors or seasons because then people can get stuck in just that color combination. But Tropics was just such a great name for this bright, lovely quilt. One of these days we're going to have a fabulous brown, maybe a Civil War quilt done in Tropics, and it'll be totally misnamed, but it'll be equally wonderful. But today we'll focus on this wonderful bright print. It starts with 2.5-inch strips and uses background fabric and then borders. So that's all you need to make this quilt today. The sample that we have up here is a throw. Yes? No. Twin? Yes? Yes, it's a twin. The sample we have here is a twin. I might have another sample for you that might be a throw. But this one is a twin. So what we start with is, oh, and I was mistaken. There are two fabrics that we need, a background fabric and a focus fabric. Do you see the focus fabric in the quilt?
Yeah.
Yes, the focus fabric makes the quilt. And it's actually the focus fabric in the quilt that we used to pull the fabrics for the strips. So we started with the focus fabric, we pulled the strip fabrics, and then we added a background fabric. The background fabric is a soft green. We're changing it up this time. Instead of using a cream or a white or a very light background, it is a green. It's a very soft green. Do you like it?
Yes, love it.
I do too. Absolutely love it. Okay, it looks like there's a lot going on. Looks very complicated. Looks hard. It's not. Let me show you the block. It's one block, twisted and turned. This is your block. Thank you for coming. Oh, you want to see how it goes together?
Yeah.
I can show you that. Okay, so first you take your pattern. Remember the pattern is Tropics, so you can buy it at your local quilt shop. As we are your local quilt shop, you have the pattern. It'll tell you how many strips you need for each size, and we have 6 different sizes available. Everywhere from just generally 8 blocks up to a king size quilt. So it'll tell you how many strips you need for each size, and then how much background you need and how to cut the background, and then how much focus fabric you need and how to cut the focus fabric. So you'll do all of that cutting as directed on page 1. Turn to page 2, and the first thing we'll do is make the larger block. There are just 2 blocks in the quilt. There's what we call a larger block. No, we don't call it a larger block. Okay, there are a couple of blocks in the quilt. We have the larger block, and then we have a smaller half-square triangle block and some backgrounds to make an equal-sized block. It's just those 2 pieces repeated over and over again. And we're going to use the tube technique to make this larger piece block. The tube technique is something we didn't invent the tube technique, but we invented the tool that makes it absolutely easy to use. It's called the strip tube ruler. So I'm going to demo that for you today. If you don't have the strip tube ruler, you can use a square up ruler. The instructions are in the pattern. So the first thing you do to make this larger piece block is sew 2 2.5-inch strips together to make a strip set. Here are 2 2.5-inch strips. These are print strips from your collection of 2.5-inch strips. Sew those 2 together. And then we'll put the right sides together with your focus fabric. Now, in our case, the focus fabric looks like this, except it's cut into strips. You can't see it here because it's right sides together and it's sewn into a tube with the 2.5-inch strips. There's a 1/4-inch seam up along the top and a 1/4-inch seam down along the bottom to make the tube. Once you have the tube complete, you take your strip tube ruler. This is your strip tube ruler. As I mentioned, you don't have to have the strip tube ruler, but it does make life easier. Actually, we also have a new ruler called the Strip Tube Junior, and you can use him to make this quilt just as you can Senior. So I'll show you with Senior. You take the measurement, it says in the pattern, you place it on the bottom stitching line, and then you cut up and down to cut out a triangle. The triangle looks a little like this. You pull the triangle away from your tube, you open it up, you get your diagonally pieced square.
Brilliant!
Oh, you guys are so good, thank you. Once you cut out that triangle, you'll cut out another triangle using the seam on the top of the tube. So you'll flip your ruler around, put the same measurement on the top, and cut out another triangle. It too will open up into a diagonally pieced square. and that's where it measures exactly what your measurement was. So you have cut out a square, although it looks like you're cutting out a triangle. Go up and down the tube, create a bunch of half square diagonally pieced squares that look like this, and put them aside. Next thing we need to do is cut out the smaller half square triangles, these pieces in this quilt. And we do it with the same technique. The only difference is, now we will sew a single print strip to a single background fabric strip. It's just two fabrics now, right sides together, 1/4 inch seam up along the top, 1/4 inch seam down the bottom. This is where Junior's actually really handy because the smaller triangle that we're going to cut is easier to cut with a smaller ruler. Just as a smaller square up is easier to square up smaller blocks, like if you're using a 12.5 inch square up ruler on a 3.5 inch block to square up, it's a lot of ruler to contend with. It's just easier to use a smaller one. So Junior here is to make life easier for the smaller sizes. We place the stitching line, we place the measurement on the bottom stitching line, cut up and down to cut out a smaller triangle. And the smaller triangle looks like this. Pull it away, open it up to reveal your diagonally pieced square.
Brilliant!
Nice. Up, down, make as many tubes as the pattern says and as many half square triangles as the pattern says. And then you're going to partner it with some background squares to create the components that make your block. A couple of pieces to look like that. Let's see, that goes there. Another background square there.
No.
To complete.
No.
Up above.
Yellow.
Up above.
No.
Go on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now put that there.
There you
There you
go.
go.
So the most important thing is to make sure you have the orientation correct. Looks like that. And now we're going to add this piece to go there. Well, you can see how this is shaping up, right?
Yep.
Let's just go, by the magic of television, straight to another finished block. Pretty, huh?
Very pretty.
And, oh, look, we have a couple more finished blocks. We actually have 4 blocks, right? Aren't those pretty?
Yep.
But that's not quite the design, is it?
Nope.
No.
So let's put all of the focus fabric triangles together into the center and see how that looks. What do you think?
Beautiful.
So you can see how the corners, these triangles come together to create a piece in the center. And that's probably what your eye goes to, which is good because that's what we call it, the focus fabric. But then as 4 other pieces come together, they create a star. So as you put another big piece section like this together, let's just show you what that looks like. Isn't that great? So that will automatically happen as you sew the blocks together. Edges will come together to make either the square, the diamond look with the focus fabric, or the star look with the background fabric. Sew your blocks together by rows once you have it laid out. Sew your rows together, then add your borders. There's 2 borders in this quilt. There's 3 borders in this quilt. We have a focus fabric border for border 1. It gives the illusion that the quilt is floating, sort of completes the design before we go into a border 2. In our case, we use the same fabric as the background fabric, and then we featured that fabulous focus fabric for the outer edge. Very good?
Very good. Gorgeous.
Apparently make a cool bag. This on one side and then the focus fabric on the other, or this on one side and the other one on the other side. Ooh, clever, creative, I like it. Any questions? I'm sure you'd like to see it in another colorway, as I kind of promised already. And I believe this one is the throw. See, it's important for you to realize you don't have to use the colors that we have featured. Although, I gotta say, these are fun, bright, gorgeous, and wonderful. You can use any set of color combinations. So we went a completely different direction. And I have the quilt right here. Come on, would you hold this up with me? Might be a little crooked. Ron's tall. You don't mind? So, what do you think? Completely different, huh? So this is, you can tell by the border what the focus fabric is, because we did the same thing. We duplicated the focus fabric from the border. And then we selected light blue as a background fabric. Again, staying clear of the white and the cream, which we tend to go to so often for background fabrics. And then this uses black and white strips. The strips were nothing but black and white, so the blue is added through the focus fabric and through the background. The strips themselves are just black and white. And then the black for the border 2 to frame the whole thing, and then back to the focus for border 3. You love it?
Yes.
Does it get you thinking about other ways that you can use fabrics in this pattern?
Oh, yeah.
With the strip tube technique and with the simple block, it is yet another quilt that can be done quickly, easily, and have a good time doing it. Any other questions? No questions on this one? It's that easy. All right, well, if there are no other questions, join us next month as we present another pattern that uses 2.5-inch strips.